Welcome back. So this is a voice recording with no video. I was going to do video, but my battery's too low. So I hope you can bear with me whilst this is just a audio today. So what I want to talk about is what I'm really trying to do in my life, what I really want in my life, and or what life really wants from me, or what I feel like I need to do, or whatever. So let me just start by saying that I think that what got me onto this whole spiritual path, or whatever you want to call it, this whole path of trying to figure out who you are or what reality is, or anything like this. What got me onto this is weed. I mean, of course, there's going to be so many other factors and conditions that are going to contribute to this, but weed. I think weed is a psychedelic. I don't know, but either way, it definitely opens your mind to shit, and heightens your awareness, and opens you up to weed seems to make you just think, just see things that you don't normally see, that feel so much more deeper and so much more truer. So, I don't really know, but anyway, so I used to smoke a lot of weed. I don't smoke as much as I used to, but I still every now and again have a little bit here and there, and the reason is because weed shows me how delusional I am in day to day. Whenever I'm on a substance, I'm just these days, I'm just more see, my mind always wants to orient towards seeing what this state of consciousness that this substance is bringing, seeing how this seeing what these affect, what this different brain chemistry or whatever, this different state of consciousness, how this can what's it like to investigate yourself and inquire into yourself in reality, when your brain's working differently, or you're in a different state of consciousness or whatever. And so what else can I say? So basically, I'm interested in this awakening thing. And this, with awakening, this whole correlation between the end of suffering and what's true and who actually am I. And weed seems to show me very precisely and clearly how and when I am constructing with my imagination a story which it's creating a story that includes duality, a story which includes a me, a self, and a world. And there's always this like opposition. It's like, here I am, and a lot of the stories that the mind conjures up, I can see that it's like, I'm this self, this kind of like innocent kind of victim, and there's this world that is harsh and hostile, and I'm trying to go through the hardships of this hostile world. I don't know if this is making any sense, but basically it seems to me that like awakening is waking up from believing in these stories that the mind is constantly habitually creating, and then projecting onto reality and thinking that that is reality, believing in it. I think awakening is the stopping of believing in the mind stories, like it's really so when I'm on weed, there's both negatives and positives. The positives that it shows me how deluded I am, and what I value in life is truth. And so it's like, it is refreshing to see the truth and to see like, oh shit, this whole fucking time I've just been creating this self and identifying with this self, and like feeling like I'm not good enough, or feeling like I'm a victim or whatever in this hostile world, and I'm blaming the world, and I'm all these emotions of anger and whatever, so I have weed to thank for that, but at the same time, the negative is that it shows me how much I am in delusion, and that's not something that anybody wants to see. What is really difficult though is that this doesn't last, is that weed seems to heighten my awareness, so I'm aware of how exactly this illusion of duality is constructed in the mind. But when I'm sober again, it seems like I don't have the capacity to observe that process, that mechanism where the mind creates this artificial duality and believes in it, like there's no problem with fabricating a self and a world, as long as you know that that's what you're doing. But if you don't know that's what you're doing, and then you believe it to be reality, that's when problems arise. And you see, when I'm sober, I don't fucking know that that's happening. And like, I'm very interested in awakening and whatever you want to call it. And, I'm trying to fucking meditate. I'm trying to fucking do the techniques right. And it's just, like, it's just disheartening because nothing is really working, except psychedelics. But psychedelics, like I said, once you're sober, once the trip ends, once the high fades away, you no longer have the capacity to see, to see the mechanisms of your mind that's causing the suffering, And so, I'm trying to meditate more, but it's disheartening because it's like, and I know that it's like, it's gonna, take a lot of patience and a lot of practice and a lot of, just, obviously you're not gonna just wake up like that. But yeah, it just, I don't know if I am if I'm progressing at all in like meditation or whatever else, because then, there's this other story, there's this story of, the spiritual seeker, this person that wants to wake up out of this person, so it's just this frustration. And the other frustration, here's like another frustration, is, I realize that there's nothing really that I want more than this. There's nothing really, this is the thing that interests me, that I'm most fascinated by. But it's something so, like, it fascinates me and interests me to the point where everything else kind of pales in comparison. Like yeah, filmmaking's great, making music, playing music's great, improving social skills is a cool thing to do, improving yourself in general is just cool, like developing skills, producing creative works of art, whatever, like all that's cool. But yeah, it all kind of pales in comparison compared to this awakening thing. But the problem is that it's so hard to orient your mind towards awakening. Like, when I'm sober, it's like, I don't fucking know what awakening is. It makes no fucking sense to me. It's like, it seems to be that there are all these fucking mechanisms. Oh shit, there's plovers that are coming for me. It seems, there are all these mechanisms, in the mind that are preventing awakening from happening, if that makes any sense. Like, I suppose something that's difficult is like, my peers around me, the people my age in the same culture, in the same environment, whatever, they're doing all these things that, like I said, are cool things to do, like making movies or making music or, just earning money or trying to develop skills and improve themselves and whatever. And, that just doesn't interest me as much as it seems that interests, my peers, the people around me. There's this other thing, there's this fucking other thing that it just goes on. It just seems everybody's oblivious to. Doesn't even see it as an actual thing. Like, I don't know. And it makes relationships hard because you can't really talk, it's great to talk about your interests and your ambitions and aspirations and also your struggles and your difficulties. It's great to talk about this kind of shit with your close relationships, but I don't really feel that I can talk that deeply, at all, about my ambitions and my difficulties and struggles, because it's something that I know people won't understand. Because this is you have to experience this to understand. Most people are so engulfed in the self that there hasn't ever really been a time where they've transcended self, or I don't know, man, hard to explain, but not really. I think you understand what I'm saying. I suppose what I'm trying to say. I don't know, I'm trying to say a lot of fucking things here. But another difficulty is that, there's there is this trajectory towards fuck. Once you've had enough glimpses into this awakening thing, it just it makes it difficult to operate in life. You're in this kind of limbo where you've had enough glimpses, yet you're still stuck in believing in these stories and still stuck in believing in and identifying as this self that the mind's creating and perceiving the world. You're still stuck in this illusion where in which everybody else around you is stuck in, yet you've pierced through this illusion so much, but you fail to abide in it, and you can't fucking abide in it more than a few seconds at a time, and so it makes it hard for you to fucking just speaking from my own experience, it makes it fucking hard for me to really be motivated to do anything. There's still this guilt that's operating because I'm still in this still believing in this common cultural perception and whatever, Like, so, you know, I'm not really motivated. There's not a lot of motivation to do shit, to improve myself, to create shit, you know, like what I was saying. Yet there's still that drive to do it, but there's this deeper knowing within me that's like, I just fucking wanna. I know what, I know suffering can be ended, you know. Like, the vast majority of our suffering is just mental suffering, and that's stemming from a misperception, that's stemming from believing in something that isn't true, and not seeing clearly how the mind is creating this suffering via creating a self and a world that isn't inherently true or real, or, you know, that exists. Oh man, it's a fucking dilemma, man. It's really difficult, because, you know, I can, like, fuck, man. You know, what else can I do? There's nothing I can do about it. You know, and that's the thing, is that I'm trying to wake up. But it's just the mind, you know, there's nothing the mind can do, because it's waking up from the mind, you know. It's like, here I am, you know, I'm this self in this world, and I'm trying to wake up, you know, I'm trying to wake up. But it's the self can't wake up. The self doesn't wake up. Wakefulness wakes up from the self, you know, but all I have is the self, you know. All I have is this agent, this doership, this you know, all I have is this action making, decision making entity called a self. You know, that's all I have, you know. It's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to awaken? You know, what can I do to awaken? But there's nothing I can do. And that's fucking fucked up, you know. Because, yeah, like I said, the self doesn't wake up. There's nothing I can do. Nothing the mind can do to realize, you know, like, because it ends up just creating more stories, you know. It's for fucks. I'm so frustrated, man. And I don't know, at the same time, like, I don't know, you know, what's true anymore, you know, because I you know, this self is trying to do shit to wake up. But that's not what the self does best. You know, the self is, you know, what the self does best is everything but awakening. What the self does best is just stay in this delusion, to stay. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know how to say it. And, you know, how the fuck can you let go or surrender or whatever? It's like, oh, okay, I see there's nothing I can do. I'll just surrender. I'll just let go. But of course you can't let go, because if you're trying to let go, that's not letting go. Like, the self can't do anything. The self can't decide to let go. You can't just say, oh, I see all this futility, I'm just going to let go. No, you can't do that, because you can't let go. You can't do it. You know, like, letting go happens when it happens. There's nothing you can do to let go. That's what makes it even more fucked up. You know, of course you can't let go. How the fuck are you going to let go? That's not. Wakefulness lets go of the self when the time is right. This is what it seems like. You know, the self can't let go of the self. The mind can't let go of the mind. Not truly. The mind can try and let go of the mind, but it will only be momentarily before the mind starts to come back in again, you know. So what are my options, you know? Like, what the fuck can I do? Because obviously, you know, so, you know, like, I guess, you know, I'm just gonna have to, you know, the only thing that I think that I can do is just keep doing a lot of meditation, you know. Down the line in the future, try and do a lot of retreats, just try and up my meditation, even though it's like, you know, when the time comes to meditate, I'm like, oh, fuck this, I don't want to meditate, you know, it's boring, blah 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 blah. You know, I think also I need to just do more psychedelics. But again, like, this just seems to not really do anything other than it just seems to further reinforce this self, because I end up creating another story of, oh yes, I'm this self that takes psychedelics and meditates in order to, you know, wake up from this self and gain the truth. But, you know, it just ends up being this self that's trying to overcome the self, you know. I'm the self in a world, you know, look at me, blah blah blah, you know, I'm this person that is interested in the truth and interested in waking up. It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is for awareness to wake up to itself, to see that this self is not who I am. Oh, I don't even know how to say it, man, but, you know, this is just what happens, you know. There's nothing I can fucking do. And it just seems like anything I do just further reinforces itself. It's like, oh, I'm going to meditate. It's like, what can I do? Oh, I don't fucking know. I guess I'll try meditation. I'll try psychedelics. But it just further recreates it, you know. Yes, I have more glimpses. You know, there are more holes pierced through this ego or whatever, however you want to conceive of this. Yes, there are more glimpses. But, you know, what this does, this just further creates more suffering, it seems, because, you know, now, you know, there's this, you know, I can't go back to the ordinary world, but I'm also not fucking fully awake, you know. And so I keep going back to weed, I keep going back to mushrooms, because, you know, that's really what I want. You know, there is nothing else that I really want more than this awareness that is aware of how and when and why the mind constructs a self and a world and believes in the actuality of it when it isn't even there, you know. And, you know, I don't even know, like... This has just been a dilemma, constantly ongoing for so fucking long now. It's just so frustrating, man. It's so frustrating. Because it's like in the eyes of others, it seems like, you know, I don't really have a clear pathway or any ambition or passion. You know, I'm not really doing a lot. I'm not really great at communicating or relating anymore. I mean, I never really was, but, you know, now I don't really have much interest in it because it's, I don't know how to describe it, but, you know, I just feel more disconnected than ever, which, you know, is not the best of signs. And, you know, in terms of awakening, it really should be feeling more and more connected. And, you know, in a sense, I do feel more and more connected, but in terms of, you know, relating in a social context or a cultural context, or however you want to think of it, it's you know, it's I'm just getting like there's less energy put into that, you know, like it's I don't know. I can't remember what I was saying. Yeah, like on the outside, it just seems like this, you know, I'm not really doing anything to make my life better, or doing anything to, you know, make something of my life, or but people don't see what's happening on the inside, and on the inside of me is just this fucking frustration and ambition to wake up. And you know, of course, you know, like, I don't talk about this because it's not, whatever the mind thinks about this is not what it actually is, you know. I don't know. I'm just trying to express thoughts, you know. I'm just trying to express right now. But yeah, it's frustrating to say the least. You know, when I'm sober, you know, which is most of the time, you know, it's like, you know, any attempt to inquire or investigate into myself and reality, it just, there doesn't seem to be, like, a drive behind it. There doesn't seem to be a passion behind it. I can't just create that passion, you know, like, I can't just, because like I said before, it seems like there are mechanisms in the mind preventing this passion to arise, because it's like there's this ego that doesn't want to be seen through, you know. And so I have a hard time trying to really get that inquiry off the ground, you know, to get it rolling, to get it, you know, you know, and there's so much suffering as well. Like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to like inquire, I want to investigate, blah blah blah. But then like, but then there's all this suffering that comes in, and there's all these, you know, there's just this, you know, more stories of who I am in the world, and just like, oh, this is, I just, you know, the mind constantly said, oh, like, this is pointless, you know, what am I actually fucking trying to do here? And of course, you know, it's about questioning all of that, but it's just, I don't know, man, it's just, you know, and there's so much fear as well. Like, this is what like weed shows me, is yeah, there's a lot of fear to be had when you see that these stories aren't real, because, you know, my whole life I've been believing myself to be this thing that I can feel prideful about, or that I can feel that I'm, you know, that it's not good enough or whatever, you know, and this entity, this self, you know, you know, what am I if I'm not that? You know, my whole life I've thought I was this thing, and then it just gets taken away from you. This rug just gets taken away from under your feet, and you're left with just like, holy shit, this like what am I? What the fuck is this? And there's a lot of fear there, you know, god damn. And the suffering seems so real. It's like, oh, I've got to work through this suffering, you know, I've got to improve myself. But it's, sometimes I just see that, no, it's a hell of a lot easier to just see that, see how the suffering is occurring. It's a hell of a lot easier to see that, oh, hang on, I'm just misperceiving. I'm just creating this self in a world, and attributing certain, you know, attributes to this self in a world, and that is causing me to suffer. You know, it's a lot easier just to see that, oh, I'm just fabricating this illusion, that, you know, I'm fabricating this what I think is reality, but it's not actually. Oh, I've just got to see that it's not actually reality, and the suffering's gone. You know, I'm no longer fabricating this unworthy self. I'm no longer fabricating this hostile world. Oh, everything's okay, there's nothing wrong, blah blah blah, whatever, you know. It's hell of a lot easier just to see that than to believe in this self and world that needs to be fixed. Like, oh, I've got to fix myself, I've got to improve myself, and I've got to, you know, help the world or whatever. You know, it's like, oh, I've got like social anxiety, I'm fearful around people, whatever. You know, I've got to work on that, I've got to improve my skills and whatever. But it's just, it just seems that that's just going in circles and not really achieving much, you know. Just seems it's a hell of a lot easier. I mean, obviously it's not, but it just seems in theory that it would just be easier to just wake up from this illusion, wake up from this story, this mental story of projecting these attributes onto what I am and what other people are, and then creating this judgment, and then creating this whole ontology of what reality is. It'd just be easy to just wake up from the mind stories. Because then you wake up from all problems, you see. It's all problems. You see, when doing like self-improvement or whatever, it's like, there are all these like things that I could improve in these different areas of life. Like, there are all these like little problems that I gotta fix or whatever. And I gotta do one by one. But if you just see like how the mind is constructing a self in a world, and you see how this perception is causing suffering. If you just see that it's like, oh, this perception is causing suffering, well, let me just stop perceiving it that way. Let me just stop seeing it that way. Let me just stop fabricating this perception. If you just see how the mind's creating this perception, then that's all. That's the. What I'm trying to say? I don't know. Like, there is only really one problem to solve, and that's the problem of believing in this artificial duality of self and world that is constantly being created by the mind. That's the only problem. The only problem is believing in that. There's only one solution: to wake up from it. There aren't a lot of problems in your life. There aren't a lot of issues in your life. I mean, of course, you've got your own personal conditioning. There are things that you can work on, but ultimately, that's just, there is only really one core thing. I don't know, man. This is just what it seems like. And I think, like, there are all these ways of looking. There are all these fabrications. And yeah, like I said earlier, like, there is no issue with fabricating shit. Seeing the world in one way, seeing yourself in one way, or having the absence of any way of looking that involves a self or a world. There's no problem if you don't believe it. I think reality is just one big way of looking. One big imagination. Like, how are you gonna perceive reality? Like, how is reality going to, like, I don't know, how you what do you want to imagine? Everything's imagination. How do you want to do it? Like, I don't know. Like, the only reason you suffer is because you believe in the current fabrication that the mind's creating. But if you sense any suffering, like if you if you realize that, you know, all was like fabrication, like, and you could just, you know, swap one lens of perception for another, one fabrication for another, like, you wouldn't really suffer, because it's like, oh, I'm suffering now, and you'd just be aware of how you're creating a self and a world, creating, oh, this self is a victimized self in this hostile world. You can just see that, oh, this is just, you know, how this current lens of perception is. Oh, I don't want to suffer. This doesn't feel good for me or other people. Let me just change this lens of perception, you know. But you can only do that if you see that every lens of perception is not true. It's just a way of looking, you know. What is true, you know? How is one way of looking any truer than another way of looking? How do you know? What's there to verify it on, you know? I don't really know what I'm talking about. But if you believe in one lens of perception, you can't just swap it for another, because, you know, that is reality for you, you know. You believe in it. You think it is reality. You don't think it's a lens of perception. You don't think it's a fabrication. You think it is reality. The moment you think it is reality, there's not really any... There's not really any way that you can swap it, you know, or let it go, because to see that it's not real, you know, it's a kind of death. It is, you know, I don't even know, man. I don't know what else more to say. But yeah, there's just a long rant of frustration from me. Thanks for listening, if anyone has. Yeah.